If you own a dog or a cat, you already know the drill. You vacuum on Sunday, and by Wednesday there's a tumbleweed of fur rolling across your kitchen floor like it's auditioning for a Western. So you do what every reasonable person does. You buy a robot vacuum to fight the war for you while you're at work. And for a lot of pet owners, that's the exact moment things go wrong. Not because robot vacuums don't work, but because most of them were never actually engineered for pet hair in the first place. They were engineered for dust. Dust is soft, dry, and doesn't fight back. Pet hair is long, wiry, and it wraps. And the difference between a brand that understands that and a brand that doesn't is the difference between a vacuum that runs for 3 years and one that's dead in 4 months with a brush you can't even untangle anymore. So if you've been Googling best robot vacuum for pet hair and wondering whether any of them actually deliver, this is the breakdown you need. We're going through 5 robot vacuum brands that, brush design-wise, were never built with pets in mind, and 3 that actually engineered around the problem instead of ignoring it. And yes, we'll get to where Roomba fits into all of this too. Brand 1, where the trouble starts, basic bristle brushes. Let's start with the most common failure point. And it's not really a brand problem so much as a design generation problem, but there are still current year models being sold with it. Basic bristle-style rollers, the kind with actual soft bristles running the length of the brush. Bristles are great at picking up hair off the floor. They are terrible at letting go of it. Every rotation, a few more strands wind around the base of the bristles, and because the bristles are uneven, the hair doesn't slide off, it anchors. Within 2 or 3 cleaning cycles with a shedding animal in the house, you've got a solid rope of hair fused around the brush core. That rope keeps tightening every time the brush spins, which increases resistance, which means the motor has to work harder to keep the brush turning at the same speed. That extra load is where you start cooking a motor that was only ever rated for clean air resistance, not fighting a hair rope with every rotation. The telltale sign you're dealing with this design is a brush that needs a scissors and seam ripper session every single week just to stay functional. If you're already nodding because you've lived this, you already know why it's on this list. Brand 2, Ecovacs. Ecovacs makes some genuinely clever robots, strong mapping, a solid app, and competitive pricing. But the brush and dustbin airflow path on several of their popular mid-range lines is where pet owners run into trouble. The intake channel narrows right at the point where the brush feeds debris into the bin, and hair, especially long hair, doesn't feed cleanly through a narrowing channel. It catches. Once a few strands catch at that choke point, more hair grabs onto that first clump on the next pass, and the channel gradually closes up like a clogged drain. Suction doesn't fail because the motor is weak. It fails because the physical path is blocked. Owners with multiple pets or long-haired breeds report needing to manually clear that intake channel multiple times a week, which, let's be honest, kind of defeats the point of buying a robot to avoid manual cleaning in the first place. Brand 3. Shark's robot line borrows a lot of branding equity from their well-known upright vacuums, and the self-cleaning brush roll technology they market so heavily on their corded vacuums doesn't fully carry over to their robots in the same way. On several Shark robot models, the brush uses a comb-style detangling mechanism, which sounds great on paper, teeth that are supposed to comb hair off the roller as it spins. The problem is that the comb teeth themselves become the trap. Fine pet hair, especially cat fur, is thin enough to slip between the comb teeth and wind around the axle underneath them, which is actually a harder spot to clean than a normal roller, because now you're not just cutting hair off a brush, you're pulling wound fur out from underneath a plastic comb assembly with tweezers. It turns a 5-minute maintenance job into a 15-minute one, and most owners just stop doing it until the motor strains. Brand 4. A legacy brand's budget line. This one hurts because the flagship models from this manufacturer are actually solid, but the budget line, the one most price-conscious pet owners gravitate toward, cuts corners specifically in the brush motor. It's a smaller, lower torque motor paired with a full-width bristle brush, which is already a mismatch, and that motor doesn't have the torque reserve to push through a moderate hair load without slowing down. When the brush slows down, cleaning performance drops, but the vacuum doesn't know that, so it just keeps trying, drawing more current, running hotter. Owners report the brush motor failing entirely within 6 to 9 months in households with heavy shedding dogs. It's not a hair clogging failure exactly. It's a, we sold you an underpowered motor, and pet hair is what pushed it past its limit failure. Bissell falls into a similar trap on some of their budget robot entries. They've done genuinely good work on their Never Tangle brush tech in the corded lineup, but that engineering doesn't always make it down to the lower price points in the robot category. Brand 5. Off-brand marketplace vacuums. You know the ones, the no-name brand with 5 different spellings across 5 different listings, all running the same core hardware from the same contract manufacturer, just rebadged. These are tempting because they're cheap and the reviews look fine at first glance, but most of them use the oldest, least refined brush and filtration designs on the market because the contract manufacturer is not investing in research and development. They are racing to the bottom on unit cost. No tangle-resistant brush geometry, no reinforced motor mounts, minimal filtration, certainly no HEPA filtration for capturing pet dander and allergens, and often no accessible support if something breaks in month 2. In a pet-free home, one of these might limp along fine on hardwood floors. In a home with a shedding dog, you're looking at brush failure within weeks, not months. So what actually works? Here's the thing. The brands that get it right are not necessarily doing anything magical. They just treated hair as an engineering problem to solve up front, instead of a customer complaint to deal with later. And before we get into the 3 worth-it brands, here's the quick answer to where iRobot Roomba fits. Roomba's rubber extractor system, the dual rubber rollers they moved to on the 600 series and above, was actually one of the first mainstream designs to sidestep the bristle wrapping problem entirely. That's why Roomba has stayed relevant. Rubber doesn't grip hair the same way bristles do. The brands below took that logic further. Roborock's higher-end lines use a rubber and bristle hybrid brush with a raised comb ridge molded directly into the dustbin intake, so hair gets sheared and pulled free at the point of contact instead of building up gradually. The hybrid rubber surface also just doesn't give hair the same grip that pure bristle does, since there's less surface texture for individual strands to catch on. Suction on the top-tier Roborock models runs in the 10,000 to 18,000 pascals range, and while we said not to lead with suction specs, it matters here because that AIR flow reserve is what keeps the intake channel clear even when it starts to load up. Pair that with a HEPA standard filter that traps fine pet dander alongside the visible fur, which is important if anyone in your house has allergies and you have a system that's actually engineered for what pet owners are dealing with. Owners with 2 dogs and a cat report going 3 to 4 weeks between manual brush cleanings, compared to twice a week with some of the brands above. That's not a small difference. That's the difference between a chore and a non-issue. Worth it number 2. Dream. Dream has leaned hard into anti-tangle brush design specifically as a marketing differentiator, and in this case, the marketing actually matches the hardware. Their newer models use a dual brush or fully rubber roller with a self-cleaning comb built into the housing, similar in concept to Roborock's approach, but with a slightly more aggressive comb angle that's particularly effective on long human and pet hair combined, a common combo problem in households with both long-haired pets and long-haired people. It's worth noting that Narwhal, a newer brand in this space, is taking a similar tangle-free engineering approach with their dual-flow brush system, one to watch if you want to see where this design philosophy is heading. But back to Dream. It's a smaller detail, but if your issue isn't just pet hair, it's pet hair plus everything else on the floor, this is the one built for that exact mess. Worth it, number 3. Ufifi's higher-end line. Ufifi doesn't always get the credit here because their budget lines have some of the same generic bristle issues as Brand 4 on our avoid list. But their upper-tier models switch to a fully rubber, tangle-resistant roller with reinforced motor mounts specifically rated for higher resistance loads, meaning the motor doesn't strain the same way when the brush hits a denser hair clump. Combined with a self-emptying base that pulls debris straight into a sealed bag, it's one of the few setups where you genuinely don't touch the brush for a month at a time in a multi-pet household. The upper-tier models also include proper HEPA filtration, so the pet dander that goes airborne during cleaning is actually being captured, not just redistributed. The real takeaway. If there's one pattern across every brand on both sides of this list, it's this: the brush is the whole story. Not the suction number on the box, not the mapping technology, not the app. If the brush geometry lets hair wind and anchor, everything downstream, the motor, the filter, the bin, pays for that design flaw eventually. So next time you're comparing robot vacuums as a pet owner, skip straight past the suction spec sheet and go look at brush design and material first. That one detail predicts almost everything else about how much of your Sunday you're getting back. If this saved you from making a $400 mistake, you know what to do. Subscribe, because we're about to do the same forensic breakdown on mopping robots next, and pet owners are going to want that one too.